Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Trump's lashed out at Israel after its defense minister ordered intense strikes on Tehran, just hours after a fragile ceasefire appeared to take shape. Iranian media also recently reported 2 explosions were heard in Tehran. Iran denied accusations by Israel that it violated the U.S. and Qatar-brokered truce. President Trump spoke earlier today after posting on social media for Israel to, quote, bring your pilots home now.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. We basically have 2 countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what they're doing.
Trump first announced a ceasefire on social media Monday in the wake of an Iranian missile attack on the largest U.S. base in the Middle East and Qatar. Qatar condemned the strike as a, quote, flagrant violation of Qatar's sovereignty. This followed the U.S. dropping bombs on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities Sunday and 12 days of fighting between Israel and Iran after Israel launched an initial unprovoked attack. Reportedly, Iran told Qatar and the United States that it was dropping the bombs on Qatar. European countries have largely rallied behind the U.S. On Monday, NATO's chief asserted Trump's offensive strike did not violate international law. The International Atomic Energy Agency warned of likely very significant damage at Iran's Fordo nuclear enrichment site after the U.S. bombing. Israel also struck the site Monday. This comes as the Iranian parliament has taken steps to suspend cooperation with the IAEA, demanding the UN nuclear watchdog provide guarantees of professional conduct. On Monday, Iran vowed to defend itself against any ongoing Israeli and U.S. attacks.
The military aggression of the Zionist regime against the Islamic Republic of Iran has been carried out with coordination, collaboration, and support from the United States. It is truly incomprehensible how you can describe an act of aggression, a crime, and a blatant violation of the law as something as admirable.
We'll have the latest on Iran after headlines with Iranian-American analyst Trita Parsi. In Gaza, Israeli forces have killed 71 Palestinians since dawn today, including at least 50 people who are waiting to receive food and aid. Among the dead are at least 27 people killed in an Israeli strike on civilians waiting for food in central Gaza, an attack that also wounded dozens and turned a relief site into what one Palestinian official called an open field of death. Separately, the Wafa news agency reports another Palestinian child has died of malnutrition in Gaza. 3-year-old Hassan Barbak died earlier today after suffering kidney and liver damage amid soaring blood acid levels due to acute malnutrition. The boy's brother also previously died of hunger. Their family had urgently appealed to transfer the children abroad for treatment, but Israeli authorities denied their requests. Meanwhile, the United Nations Children's Agency, UNICEF, warns Gaza is on the brink of a man-made drought, with children at risk of dying from thirst unless Israel ends its blockade. The UN warns just 40% of Gaza's water treatment facilities remain functional due to fuel shortages. The Danish shipping giant Maersk will divest from companies linked to Israel's illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank after a sustained pressure campaign by activists led by the Palestinian Youth Movement. In a statement, the group said, quote, this sends a clear message. Compliance with international law and basic human rights is not optional. Doing business with Israel's illegal settlements is no longer viable, unquote. The group is calling for Maersk to next stop transporting F-35 fighter jet parts that are used by Israel's military. The British government's moved to ban the direct action group Palestine Action under Britain's terrorism laws after Activists breached the UK's largest Air Force base on Friday and damaged 2 military jets. Previous actions have included spray painting Trump's Scotland golf course and disruptions targeting the arms manufacturer Elbit Systems, which supplies Israel with weapons. Palestine Action members have been arrested and jailed for their protests. On Monday, police cracked down on protesters who'd gathered in London to decry the government's persecution of the group, arresting several people. Max Geller is a member of Palestine Action.
Palestine Action exposed not only a security liability at one of the Air Force bases, but indeed the RAF's continued role in this genocide on Palestine. Within 12 hours, the government decided to take the unprecedented step of banning a domestic protest movement.
In a 6-3 ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court has allowed President Trump to resume the hasty transfer of immigrants to third countries, lifting a lower court order that ruled immigrants have the right to challenge their removal. The case stems from the Trump administration's attempt last month to send 8 people, mostly from Latin American and Asian countries, to South Sudan. But their plane was diverted to a U.S. military base in Djibouti after a judge intervened. The court's 3 liberal justices issued a scathing dissent, accusing their right-wing colleagues of rewarding lawlessness. Justice Sonia Sotomayor warned the ruling puts, quote, thousands at risk of torture or death, unquote. As nationwide ICE raids rip through communities, activists are warning immigrants who are taken into federal custody are effectively being disappeared, with lawyers and relatives unable to locate detainees in public government records. Advocates in the Los Angeles area say they've received thousands of calls reporting missing people following ICE arrests, as officials reportedly failed to log people's information in the agency's detainee locator database. ICE has reportedly lost track of immigrants in its custody, as it also repeatedly transfers people from one ICE jail to another. In more news from Los Angeles, photojournalist Anthony Orendorff was released from jail without charge Monday following his arrest last week while documenting an ICE raid. In related news, a Marine Corps veteran is pleading for his wife's release from ICE detention after officers arrested her during a routine green card appointment in May. Adrienne Cloutter's wife, Paula Cloutter, is being held at an ICE jail in Monroe, Louisiana, separated from her nearly 2-year-old child and 3-month-old baby, whom Paula was still breastfeeding when she was taken by ICE. Paula was brought to the U.S. from Mexico as a child by her mom to seek asylum. She'd begun the green card process in 2024 after she married Adrienne, a U.S. citizen. Her husband is bringing the baby to her in jail so she can breastfeed the baby. In more immigration news, Florida's building an immigrant jail that officials have nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz, with plans to turn an isolated airfield in the Everglades into a mass detention tent camp. The facility will cost some $450 million a year to operate, with an option for Florida to request a partial federal reimbursement from FEMA. Florida's Attorney General and Trump ally, James Uthmeier, has said the state won't invest much in security as this facility is surrounded by alligators and pythons. The U.S. Senate's confirmed Rodney Scott as head of Customs and Border Protection. This despite mounting accusations Scott attempted to cover up and obstruct the criminal investigation into the fatal beating of Anastasio Hernandez Rojas in 2010. Rojas, a Mexican father, was crossing the southern border in an attempt to return to San Diego, where he lived for a quarter of a century, to reunite with his wife and 5 children after being deported. He was stopped by border agents who brutally beat and tasered him while he was handcuffed until Rojas died of heart failure. His death was later ruled a homicide. This comes as CBP has awarded more than $309 million to a North Dakota-based company to build 27 more miles of border wall along Arizona's border with Mexico. Environmental groups and indigenous communities in the borderlands have long opposed further wall construction in the Sonoran Desert as they warn of ecological disasters, while activists say the barrier will continue to force migrants to cross through more remote and dangerous areas in the desert where thousands have died attempting to reach the United States. In Sudan, the World Health Organization says over 40 people were killed in a weekend attack on a hospital near the front line between the Sudanese army and the rival paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces. It's not clear who ordered the attack, which left 5 healthcare workers and 6 children among the dead. But at least one human rights group said a Sudanese army drone was responsible. Fighting between Sudan's rival military factions since April 2023 has spawned the world's worst humanitarian crisis, with over 12 million people displaced, both internally and across borders. In Bolivia, at least 6 people have been killed and hundreds more injured amidst clashes between police and supporters of former President Evo Morales. Morales' backers have been blockading roads and highways across Bolivia since early June to protest a Supreme Court ruling that barred Morales from seeking a 4th term in elections set for August 17th. The court cited Bolivia's 2-term presidential limit. This comes as Morales faces an arrest warrant for statutory rape after prosecutors accused him of fathering a child with a 15-year-old girl in 2016. Morales' lawyers have called the charges politically motivated. Meanwhile, his supporters say they won't end their protests anytime soon.
Do you think that by capturing Evo or killing him, these people will lift the blockade? No, it will not be lifted because the majority of the population today feels represented by Evo.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul Monday said she'll authorize the construction of a new nuclear power plant to replace the Indian Point nuclear power station, which was permanently shut down in 2021 following decades of anti-nuclear protests. Hochul said several communities had offered to host the plant, but she's yet to make a decision. The family of Win Rosario, a 19-year-old Bangladeshi teen from Queens who was killed by police officers last year, has filed a lawsuit against 2 New York City police officers and the city of New York. In March 2024, Rosario called 911 asking for help during a mental health crisis, but 2 NYPD officers instead tasered Rosario and shot him at least 4 times within minutes of entering the family's home. Police body camera footage showed Rosario was standing on the other side of the kitchen when he was attacked as his mother desperately tried to shield him. The officers responsible were placed on desk duty after Rosario's killing and have faced no criminal charges. And New York City voters are braving record-high temperatures today to cast ballots in the closely watched mayoral primary. On Monday, a final independent poll showed progressive New York State Assembly member Zohran Mamdani edging out the disgraced former governor Andrew Cuomo in the Democratic ranked choice voting election. If no candidate receives at least 50% of the initial vote, as predicted, New Yorkers aren't expected to have the final result until July 1st or later. We'll have more on the New York City race for mayor later in the broadcast, and we may be able to speak to Zohran Mamdani himself. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now!'s Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.